Hello and welcome to Nigeria, the road to 2019, a series of programs where Arise News places the audience and the choice at the heart of our coverage of the upcoming presidential elections. I'm Charles Anyenkuru. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, all the news, comment and analysis that provide unrivaled insight into Nigeria 2019, including in a unanimous judgment, the appeals court in Abuja affirms Donald Duke as the authentic presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, declaring the judgment of a lower court that voided his candidacy as perverse and wrong. We'll speak to the National Secretary and Vice President, presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Shehu Gabam. Also coming up, Obi Ezekwesili, the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, withdraws from the race, saying she'll now focus on building a coalition to defeat President Buhari's ruling APC party. As we gauge reaction to her withdrawal, we speak with another female presidential candidate who's forging ahead with her ambition for the top job. And later, as aid agencies in Nigeria release a report alleging that armed rebel groups in the northeast have killed more than 100 soldiers in the past 3 weeks and forced thousands of civilians from their homes, we speak to an international security analyst about the intensification of violence in the run-up to the presidential election. So, with just 3 weeks to go before the elections, a tumultuous development that tops the election campaign period and makes the upcoming ballot even more unpredictable. Donald Duke, the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, whose political hopes appeared to have been dashed in December when a High Court controversially ruled against him and in favor of Professor Jerry Gana as the party's candidate, has been catapulted back into the spotlight. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has overturned the judgment of the lower court and affirmed that Mr. Duke is the rightful candidate and that the voiding of his candidacy was perverse and wrong. The decision was unanimous, but the consequences for the SDP of this legal wrangle so close to the elections are still being assessed. Here's Donald Duke reacting to the appeals court verdict.
Almost like a Pyrrhic victory, you know. We've gone through a very unnecessary process that we ought not to have started in the first place. We have an overwhelming task ahead of us, trying to galvanize our party and portray ourselves as a viable alternative to the two behemoths that are contesting now, and that we're almost certain will not move this nation anywhere. So wasting time in court over a non-issue, as it were, is not what I would consider a victory. Rather, I'd like to reach out to Professor Gana. Let's bury the hatchet. Being head of the team is not what matters. What matters is having a viable team to work with, and I would like him to be a member of the team. I hope he would reciprocate this gesture.
Donald Duke speaking just over an hour ago here on Arise News. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the National Secretary and Vice Presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Shehu Gabam. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. First of all, your reaction to this decision by the appeals court.
Well, first and foremost, the presidential candidate have said it very, very rightly. It's not about a defeat on Professor Jerry Gana. Is about justice that has been done. It's about strengthening our constitution as a nation. It's about also giving the party the power to decide at the convention. The convention of a party is a final decision, or is a supreme decision of the party. And that is why we find it very, very awkward when the lower court delivered this judgment, set aside the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, set aside provision of the Electoral Act, and so on and so forth. And the major reason why we appeal against it is to strengthen the issues, so that not to complicate the powers of the party, political party, to conduct its own affairs within the powers of the convention and within the powers of the delegate who decide who to vote for. And squarely, like he have said, the ultimate aim is to set the record very straight. But there are a lot of efforts, even before the judgment of the Court of Appeal, you know, to build a capacity to reconcile the issues internally within the internal mechanism of the party. Effort has been reached to discuss with Professor Jerry Gana. He has been discussed with the national chairman of the party, and they have agreed not to go further, rather to build the party, given the challenges that we are facing. The election is around the corner. So it is quite a setback in terms of delay of the party activities reaching out.
Well, obviously we're going to talk about that, but let's talk about the fact that you said that Professor Jerry Gana does not want to, because I mean the next logical question was going to be, is this the end of the appeals process, or could it go all the way to the Supreme Court?
Well, I don't know, but what I'm telling you is that there was an effort up to last week between himself and the Donald Duke. A meeting was convened by the national chairman of the party, Chief Olufalaye, to ensure that there is a harmony, there is a relationship in between. And there's a future ahead of the party, not these wranglings surrounding.
Right. And what emerged from that meeting?
They have agreed that after the appeal court judgment, they will not go further, they will not appeal. But
he was not prepared to withdraw it from the appeals court after that meeting.
Well, we made effort to see if the case can be withdrawn.
Right.
But you know, on both sides there are a lot of issues. There are people who agree, people who disagree. And then we agreed unanimously that, okay, let the appeal go on and let the judgment come on board. And that will give everybody a sense of belonging that, okay, the judgment of the lower court is by a single judge. And the Court of Appeal have 3 judges who have sound mind, who have better judgment to come up with these issues. And if 3 judges can have a unanimous judgment, then nobody should go further than that, because it gives you a sense of belonging, a sense of understanding, a deeper knowledge of what the issues are comprehensively. And the judgment was comprehensively done. You know, every point was extra and delivered successfully.
The interesting thing, perhaps I should say the funny thing about Professor Jerry Gana, because he sat where you sat, I mean, he made it ineluctably clear when we talked to him here that, you know, he was running for president, as if this was before he went to court, before even the primaries took place, when he was trying to emerge as the candidate. You know, talked glowingly about the SDP and the things that he was hoping to achieve, and the fact that, you know, you're all very civil people, and that the decision of the, you know, of the primaries would be supreme. And then Donald Duke sat where you were sitting and assured us that there wasn't going to be any issue, because there was talk of, you know, a challenge to him, and you know, and he said, oh no, Jerry Gana is not going to do that. We've had a chat, and everything is sort of shipshape and seaworthy. But within a week of saying that, Mr. Gana went to court, and now you're telling us that another meeting has taken place in which you all sat down and held hands and sort of rubbed each other's backs and so on, and said, we're all chums. You see what I mean? But you know, we don't know what's going to happen. And it worries people, a lot of people who believe in your presidential candidate, and who believe that the SDP really ought to be a sort of third force in Nigerian politics. I mean, it's an enormous disappointment, and it makes them worry that if they stand by you, you may let them down at the elections.
Well, let me say this. As the secretary of the party, I know everything that have transpired. Number 2, we did everything humanly possible as a political party to build friendship within the 5 presidential aspirants that contested for the position of the president. We conducted the best transparent convention in record, you know, covered live. We make sure the voting was transparent, that everybody sees. It was counted transparently. And that is why Professor Jerry Gana did not contest the transparency of the convention. The point of his contention is the zoning issue, to which he thinks that favors him and disfavors Donald Duke. Now, it was after the convention we discovered that he is dissatisfied with the process because the zoning did not favor him.
So he wasn't questioning the fact that he lost.
There was no questioning about he lost. And if you look at his prayers, he said his vote should be converted to him that won because the zoning favors him. And those that voted for Donald Duke should be null and void, those votes. Those are part of his prayers because the zoning dealt with him. Number 2, we were not prepared for legal issues. We thought that we had a very successful convention that produced decent presidential candidate, and our preparation was to hit on the campaigns and to which everybody will be involved. And all of a sudden we saw someone from a competent court of the law challenging the processes. Like I've said, we did not sue him. He sued the party. He's a person who sued SDP. And then he sued the national chairman of the SDP. He sued me as the secretary of the party. He sued Professor Tunda Adeno, who is the chairman of the screening committee. And then he sued Donald Duke, you know, who won the primaries at the convention. So despite that, before going to court, the delegation was led by the national chairman of SDP, Chief Olufalai, to his house, to which I was part of it, trying to find a diplomatic issue around the whole thing. We pleaded with him from every sense of responsibility, every sense of decency, being the father figure of the party, being a very prominent political key player, that look, it wasn't a man-made, it was a decision of the delegates. These delegates decided who they want. Let's find a way of working together as a team to build this party. We left PDP, myself and himself, Professor Aderon, Professor Alkali, because we are dissatisfied with PDP. You know, their behavior, their unrepentant attitude, and so on and so forth. We decided to look for a party that is enduring in the minds of Nigerians, that have a history, that doesn't have excess baggages. And of course, the opinion poll around the whole state of the federation was that SDP is the main party to go and pick, rejiggle it, and make it a major force in the Nigerian political space. And that is how we moved in, myself, himself, Professor Aderon, Professor Algali, and a host of others, into SDP. We adopted SDP as a political platform. So it was a family thing, historically, you know. And I have a political family political history with him, quite a long time, right from 1988 when PDP was being formed. You know, he was one of those. I was SA to one of the founders, led Alhaji Shehu Gabam. So, like I said, we didn't plan for this, but we were ambushed, you know, along the line. But despite the court process that was ongoing, we've been reaching out diplomatically to see how we can get the issue out of the court. But it was practically impossible, because virtually on both sides, they are keep on building that don't do that, don't do this. But at the end of the day, like I've said, a week, 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting to which himself, Donald Duke, Chief Olufalai, they met, they celebrated, they hugged each other, and they have agreed that after the judgment of the Court of Appeal, nobody will go further. I hope they will maintain that. I hope that will be achieved, and that is our ultimate prayer. You know. Yeah.
But you can't discountenance the fact that your party has been split right down the middle.
No. You see, when you say the party is split, any party that have gone through processes of election or congresses naturally have certain people who disagree with some of the processes. Some people who go to court. It's not just peculiar to SDP. There are a lot of litigations within the PDP, a lot of litigation within the APC, more than any other party. But yet the party is moving intact. If party is split, if you suggest in any way a sign that the party is split, you see the major leadership of the party are not together. We are intact, we are together. Yes, there are a few people who disagreed, you know, with
yeah,
what
the problem
is
is that those few people, prominent amongst them, is the person who came second in your primaries. He's a very influential Nigerian.
I'm talking about the leadership of the party.
Yeah, but I'm
not
also
those
I'm
who
talking about
contested for
people who are,
election.
yeah, but he's a very significant part of your party.
If you said Jerry Gana is significant, it's like you are underrating him.
No,
he is very significant.
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying that when somebody like that is disgruntled in your party, I mean, along with a considerable number of people who support him, the consequences for your party, with 3 weeks to go to the elections, are pretty serious.
Well, they are. It's not just for SDP. Even the major parties that are competing.
Yeah, but we're talking
they are
about
facing
SDP.
the consequences. Now, I'm responding to that squarely. Now, when you say about the consequences, we understood the consequences. We are dealing with the consequences. We went through the consequences. Part of the consequences is the litigation issues, you know, and this is the backlash of after conventions, which we know as a spirit. I'm a career person, so I understood all these things. We went through all these things in the past. When we are in PDP, there's nothing that is new to me. What matters in the political environment is for you to stand very firm and ensure that you stood by those principles and those convictions that determine where you go. We are in the full belief and full conviction that yes, Nigerians have been following what is going on. we have done the right thing. We have done congresses. We have produced presidential candidate. We have produced governorship candidate. We have produced senatorial candidate. We have produced House of Reps candidate. We have produced State Assembly candidate. A party that was just emerging in 6 months. We build this capacity. So Nigerians are following us more than any other thing. I was shocked today after this judgment. The number of calls, the number of reactions. That shows that people have a lot of interest in what happened in SDP, you know, when this case was ongoing, which make me very happy that, look, we have not been forgotten by Nigerians. What we have marketed is still in their mind. What we have told them is still in their mind. So 2 or 3 weeks to the election, those who are committed in voting SDP, they will still vote for SDP because the ideology still remain, the platform still remain, and the white will still remain. That's what they are going to vote for. So yes, there is a tussle between 2 actors, which the Court of Appeal have settled today. And I do hope and I do pray the other side will understand the dynamics and the strategic interests of the party that we are trying to take over power from 2 dominant parties that have virtually lost control.
Yeah, but clearly, Professor Ghana did not seem to take that into account, or did not see the same perspective that you have now, because some would argue that it was fairly selfish on his part to have taken a party like yours without considering the damage that he's doing and the consequences of his actions, taking the party to court and disrupting your, I mean, you could have taken part in the presidential debate, you didn't. You know, these were significant sort of milestones, you know, something that could have happened. I mean, isn't it time perhaps that your party should consider and say, well, perhaps this chap should not belong to this party? I mean, because you're not quite sure what's going to happen next, are you?
No. You see, nobody can predict what is going to happen. Nobody can predict.
Well, that's the whole point.
The environment,
you're not sure about what's going to happen.
No, the environment is quite dicey. I've participated in a lot of elections. The pattern of the election of Nigeria usually is being determined within 1 week or thereabout. You know, we always go into crash programs in this country politically, if you look at it, and I participated in so many. We never had time to arrange, you know, proper things in a very proper way, in a very decent and smooth manner. Like I've said, I don't want to say anything negative around what has happened around Professor Jerega. He's a man that I respect so much, and I still respect him. I'm very close to him. We are very, very close, apart from this gap that was created out of political interest. And I still hold him in high esteem. And I do hope, as a father figure, as somebody who fought very hard to take military back to power through peaceful process, restoration of democracy in 1988 to 1999, those who form PDP, he have vast knowledge. He has a quantum of knowledge, quantum of experience. And I believe when he reflects back, he will understand the need for sacrifice. There are people who make sacrifice. Those who form party, those who form PDP, most of them died. They are not the one running the affairs of the party. Those who are benefiting today, we are not part of those who form PDP. So a party is not a shareholding establishment. For somebody to tell that you have a larger shareholder, so he controls the party. It belongs to the members of the party. They determine where they go. And we are contributing our quota in building democracy, strengthening the fundamental pillars of democracy. So by implication, we still believe we have a chance within this short period of likely of 3 weeks to send the message to every nook and corner of this country that we stand by our principle, we stand by our conviction, we stand by believing strongly that the lives of Nigeria needs to be protected. Nigeria needs to be free, needs to move freely. There are cardinal issues that every political party must focus on. What do you want to achieve? And that is the message. It's not about a party people are talking about now. It's about individual. What are the deep impact capacity that individual has? How deep is he in terms of knowing his country, the topography of the country, the philosophical psyche of the people that are being affected as a result of a lot of maladministration and so on and so forth. This is what Nigerians are worried about, not about APC or P, no, about individuals that have the capacity to transform the life of Nigerians. And I think we have one. Donald Duke is very deep, is very versatile, is very knowledgeable, is very social. Is someone you can be proud of to see him on the world stage talking about his country, talking about those who matters, who are on the same page with him. And that's the system that the country needs today.
Right. You've obviously, and I think you've touched on this yourself, lost considerable time and ground as a result of this court case. I mean, how much of a setback is it for you in terms of catching up with the other candidates. I talked about a minute ago, whilst you were fighting in court, a presidential debate took place without your candidate. And Kingsley Moghalu, the guy who's from the Young Progressive Party, the presidential candidate, has come from behind and, according to all the polls that came out recently, almost slipped past you and is now being seen as the legitimate third force in this election.
Because it's not a natural process. Because of hindrances, we didn't participate. And because sometimes the laws are not being respected.
Yeah.
We have submitted legitimately to INEC our presidential candidate after the convention, just like what the Court of Appeal have said today. INEC have no reason not to recognize our presidential candidate. They have no reason, absolutely. Because the Eastern Supreme Court judgment is very clear. Convention is the final determinant of who will be the candidate of the party. So, for that singular act, that led to what we suffered, the setback we suffered, that we didn't appear in most of the debate. But like I'm saying, those debates have taken place. We didn't go into the controversy. The main parties that are supposed to provide leadership went into the controversies. So I think that have watered down whatever that has happened. And we have the opportunity now to reach out through a lot of media stations, talk about what we believe. The debate was also about being covered by media stations. What I'm doing now is talking to the media stations, expressing issues,
to the Nigerian
talking
people,
to the entire
right?
Nigeria and the entire world. So we have our strategic operational plans, how to reach out to Nigeria to cover this gap. Yes, there was a gap, but we have developed capacity, we have developed measures to cover this gap. And I'm assuring you that we'll cover it. We have the capacity to do that. We have the intellectual base, we have the experience, we have the sagacity, you know, to reach out and to cover some of these gaps. And of course, anybody who knows our palms and whatever knows that we know the country, we know the peculiarities, we know the topography, we know the temperaments of the system. We've been around the system for a very, very long time. So whether Magulu or whatever it is, that's not the issue. The substance, Kingsley, right. It's not the substance of the issue. The substance of the issue in politics, have you tested somebody or not? Donald Duke is a tested person. He's a non-person. He's an internationally recognized person. He has done very well while he was in office. The same thing with Professor Jerry Ghana. Is a very well-known person. All those who have run under our party, the 5 of them, are very well-known, versatile Nigerians. We have produced some of the best quality people during our primaries. So, and they are known, like I have said.
But given all this, how do you rate your chances of success now?
Extremely very high. Like I've said, we have reached out before this crisis. And the followership still remain, the polls still remain. PDP is one of the parties that Nigeria are expecting to provide leadership. It hasn't dropped. We had a setback because of litigations and so on and so forth. You
mean SDP is the
SDP,
party.
that's what I'm talking about.
Well, you said PDP.
No, so sorry about that.
Right.
You know, SDP was the one Nigerians are expecting to provide leadership, to provide decency and quality life for every Nigerian. And we are there. We haven't dropped. It's just that these litigations brought some certain setbacks. And like I've told you, we have our operational programs. We are going to cover it. We'll cover those gaps that have been created out of these litigations.
Right. I want to get your reaction to another big sort of earth-shattering development, if you like, that happened today. And that is the fact that Obi Ezekwesili, the presidential candidate for the ACPN, has withdrawn from the race, saying she'll now focus on building a coalition to defeat President Buhari's ruling APC party. Do you think you guys want to leap across and reach out to her and say, hey, can we form a coalition? Because, I mean, she's got considerable support. She's also someone who's pretty well liked. She's a woman of considerable force. Very well known internationally. I mean, you know, maybe you guys should say, hey, let's form a coalition, because I mean, the purpose is the same aim, to get rid of the existing government and prevent the PDP from coming in.
I know her and I respect her very well. She's a woman of conviction. She believes in doing what she feels is the right thing to do. And she's also very close to our candidate, Donald Duke, and I'm sure they've been in talking terms. I'm very sure that something is ongoing in order to reach out to a very good conclusion on what to do. We have a common belief, common philosophy on what to do to transform the lives of Nigerians. I wasn't shocked that she withdrew. It's normal in politics.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, were you surprised? I mean,
No,
because,
no.
you know, she had become a fairly prominent figure in this election, and people had expected her to carry on.
I wasn't surprised for two reasons. One, it takes a career politician to understand the dynamics that are involved in running for presidency. This is her first time of giving it a shot.
That's a good point.
And of course, most of the obstacles, perhaps she have not envisaged them. And perhaps she doesn't have well-grounded politician to be able to tell her day one that these are the obstacles that they are going to be confronted. Perhaps
so you think that's what informed her
perhaps
decision
those obstacles are very, very clear to her.
Right.
And out of patriotism and love for her country, she decided to pull out and form an alliance. I don't know where she's heading to right now, but like I have said, we have a very good relationship with her, and I respect her so much. I respect her sense of articulation and belief and vision and what she believed that a country should be. She led a very serious struggle to liberate people that has been kidnapped and so on and so forth. So I have a lot of respect for her. Like I said, her conviction is best known to her. I don't know if she made it public to you, but I believe that she's a progressive person. She will work with progressive minds to move this country forward. So I wish her the very best of luck in her future endeavors, and I'm looking forward to, we are looking forward to working with her in SDP, perhaps in a very, very short period to come.
But it seemed like she didn't have the structures, I mean, essentially, to carry out a presidential.
Well, in the absence of the structure, she as a human being, she has her own structure as a person. The reach out she has is her own structure. Yes, when you are talking about the physical structure, it's extremely very difficult for her to have that, because it takes a lot for a party to have a structure nationwide. It takes a lot. Not just a long time. It takes a lot of resources for you to do that. Most of the parties don't even offices in Abuja. So because of the cost of running a political party is extremely very high. So I wasn't surprised about the structure thing, but she have a large followership. She have a lot of appeal that people believe in her conviction, believe in what she is doing. So that is a structure that she has that she can use as a vote that will translate into.
Well, I mean, looking at her Twitter feed, where she's been talking about her announcement to pull out, I mean, she seems to focus a lot on the fact that there are two main parties, and that would naturally exclude yours, but that there are two main parties, and that as a result, many of the other candidates don't get much attention. And her point appears to be that Nigerians are straddled between the APC and the PDP, and therefore don't have much choice. Does she have a point?
Again, I don't believe in that. I'm a practical politician. One, I'm not surprised because of our affiliation with former President Obasanjo. Number two, if by her own assessment and by what you said, two political parties, that is a complete lie. How do you describe two strong political parties? They have structures in the state, at the local government, at the world level. SDP has structure at the national level. We have one of the most best office headquarters in Abuja.
But you haven't won any presidential election.
It's not about winning.
Well, it is
APC haven't won. This is the first time APC won election.
Yeah, but they won.
And yes, what I'm saying.
Right, and they're hoping to win again.
It's about going through election. We are going through election, so you wouldn't say we will not win.
No, I know. We can't predict what's going to happen. But what I'm saying is that you haven't won so far.
No, but some of us are part of those who contributed to those who won election. From 1999, I've been part of the
but you
PDP
were not there as part of the SDP. You were there as part of the PDP.
Yes, but we moved that experience into the SDP, and we strengthened the SDP and make it a viable third party in Nigeria by every standard, in terms of the structure, in terms of filling the entire offices, and in terms of operations. There is no party that can say they are better structured than SDP outside a PDP and APC. No party. And I challenge any party to produce those structures that have better than us in SDP. We know what we invested, we know what we went through, and we know the kind of stability and the challenge we brought to PDP and then the APC. We know it is on ground. So it's far from rhetorics and people making a lot of mathematics to satisfy their own ego. But in practical terms, in terms of physical structures, in terms of reach out, in terms of congresses that were conducted, we conducted a transparent convention. No party did that outside APC and PDP. SDP was the third party that conducted
the PDP
a transparent
conducted
convention.
Quite an above, and there's no argument.
That's what I'm saying.
They all
outside PDP
Okay, I see
and
what you mean.
APC.
Right, yeah.
SDP is the next party that conducted open, transparent convention because we have the capacity.
Yes.
You need to see our convention. You need to see the crowd pulling. You need to see the personalities that
Well,
are
we
there.
saw it on,
so by that standard,
on television.
by that standard,
Yeah.
there's no party that can say they are the third force more than the SDP. Even the ADC that came in, they crashed. They couldn't conduct a convention. So by every standard, we are up there, despite the crisis that have engulfed litigational crisis that we went through. We are there, and we are still there.
I have to say that I really appreciate talking with you because you've got considerable knowledge and experience of Nigerian politics, even though you look very young. I mean,
I'm not young. Don't forget my face.
Well, I can see some. Let me take a look here. There are a few white hairs around the corner, but generally your face looks quite young and sort of fresh. But I want to
same with you.
Thank you very much indeed. But I have to say that I want to just press you a little bit more. Because we have both a sort of national, continental and global audience here on Arise News. And just to talk a bit about Oby Ezekwesili, just a little bit more. I mean, that's not the main focus, but do you think, given your range of experience as a politician, you've been at this for quite some time, do you think that it was more difficult for her, this presidential run, perhaps because she's a woman? Because, I mean, running a campaign is expensive, as you yourself know, requires money which comes from being able to do a lot of sort of backdoor negotiations and late night deals, I mean, which sometimes turfs out a lot of women. In fact, studies have been conducted in that direction, including in Nigeria, turfs out a lot of women in this country, especially those who are seeking the highest office. I mean, they're not able to be chums with the boys and go to all those midnight sort of meetings and things. Do you think that had some, perhaps effect on her?
Definitely, the political environment is not conducive for a female to run for president right now. But she gave it a very good test. If you look at the political geography of Nigeria, you will appreciate the fact that it's a very difficult environment. If you look at our peculiarities, who we are as a people,
yes,
our divisions within ourselves based on ethnic regional issues, that counts also. Yes, she will have a base. There are other bases that she have no access to. So anybody that faces reality will understand in clear terms that there are major obstacles ahead that led to her withdrawal. That's the practical aspect of it. Number two,
and one of those is because she's a woman.
Well, she's a woman is a major factor on its own, because reaching out is a lot of difficulties. The terrain is very bad.
But why is it more difficult in Nigeria? I mean, Liberia had a woman president.
Well, that's the difference. What's the population of Liberia? And the psyche is not the same.
Yeah, but I mean, in microcosm, it's a fairly similar.
Nigeria is one of the most complicated countries on earth. By every standard, it's more complicated than America. Hillary Clinton gave it a try. And that's a civilized society by every definition. But by act of whatever calculation, she lost it.
And she was still held back.
And still held back.
Right.
Not to talk of Nigeria, where we are still trying to strengthen our fundamental pillars. Still our pillars are very weak. The political pillar is weak, the economic pillar is weak, the security pillar is weak, the digital pillar is weak. So most of the support base that we are looking for, they are weak. We are building them now to be independent on their own. And in a society where those fundamental pillars are weak, it's very difficult for somebody who is not properly entrenched in this art of political battles to survive it. Yes, you keep on giving a trial, like I've said. I like to see more women coming and giving it a chance, giving it a very good chance for it. Maybe as time goes on, as they get themselves familiar with the environment, with the circumstances surrounding such a very difficult battle indeed, they will keep on breaking through. And as time goes on, one at a time, certainly people will say, let's give it a trial. Because women are being respected, they have a very soft heart, they have capacity to manage the economy, they have capacity to manage the family, and they are not seen as extremists in terms of greed, of acquiring wealth. So it's a societal issue.
Well, they don't have lots of girlfriends all over the place that they've got to pay for.
On the social aspect of it. So the association is quite complicated.
Yeah.
And how you define them and then synchronizing is another issue of its own. Like I've said, I'm a career person in this game, and I know what it is, and I know the difficulties, I know the trenches, I know the difficult locations and the areas that are extremely, even for a very strong and popular person to scale through. You know. Two, you are dealing with a society that is very gullible. No matter how brilliant your ideas are, you will be misinterpreted along ethnic religious line. We haven't crossed that line as a nation. And I do hope and I pray that as Nigerians, as young people, will cross that battle and build a nation, very strong and viable nation. This country has the best potentials that no country on earth have. We have the naturally gifted, natural resources more than any country on earth. I've traveled to a lot of countries and I've seen how life is. So I believe if the opportunity comes, Nigerians take away the issue of ethnicity, the issue of religion, look at a quality person, competent capacity to lead this country within a short period of time will get out of this woods.
Do you see that happening at this election? Because your candidate is not from part of the reason the other Professor Ghana went to court was because of the same sort of zoning thing. He felt that it should be zoned to a particular ethnic part of this country, and that it hadn't been done. And the two main political parties, perhaps you don't like the term main, but the fact is that, they are the two main political parties, the APC and the PDP.
It is a defeatist statement, and I don't belong to a defeatist.
They prefer, their preferred candidates who've become their sort of candidates are both from a particular sort of ethnic group. I mean, doesn't that disadvantage your party?
No. Let me tell you my philosophy and what I believe. One, I'm a Nigerian. Number two, God in His infinite mercy is the one who made me to come from the north. It's not as if I bargained to be here.
Yes.
You didn't bargain to come where you come from.
Yeah.
So that is fundamental in our minds as a people. Number two.
Well, that ought to be fundamental.
Well, it is. It's not ought to be. It's a fundamental thing. Because anything outside this will lose focus on building a great nation.
But that's what's been happening in Nigeria.
Yeah, but we can't allow it to continue to happen.
I understand
that's the point.
what you mean.
Now, when you talk about the issue of zoning, every party have their own internal arrangements in relation to leadership, vying for leaderships. And we agree that given the peculiarities, you should make it a provision. But that do not disenfranchise any citizen from anywhere who want to exercise his right. In 1999, when Rimi, who was among the first, among the first founders of PDP, want to run for presidency, he was denied because of zoning. We went to court, and the court gave him the right to go and contest. I went and collected the form for the presidential form. So that's what we are talking about. Because you have an internal law, and those laws are not in tandem with our federal constitution, it's null and void. But it takes you who wants to run against the basic issues to build your capacity to reach out to those who decide, who are deciding the votes, who decide where the vote goes to. Basically, the delegates. Convention is about delegate purely, not any other thing. And both of them reach out to delegate. They visited them in their various locations. So the party didn't follow them. They went on their own, 5 of them, because they were campaigning all of them to be candidates. So there was a free and fair environment. And those establishments, rules were there before anybody bought his form, just like what the Court of Appeal have said today. So in the nutshell, if we do not shift, if there is not a paradigm shift in this kind of mentality, that I'm being disenfranchised because I'm a Fulani man. I didn't make myself a Fulani man. By the way, those who made me who I am today are not just Fulanis. It's a collection of so many Nigerians of different tribes, of different behavior that shaped me and make me who I am. So I'm grateful to every Nigerian that contributed to who I am, not along ethnic or religious lines. Okay, well, my best friends are not just my Fulanis or religious people. So this mentality must go away if our ultimate aim is to have a viable nation that can stand the test of time.
Now, just before we go, what's your final message to the Nigerian people, given all that has happened in the SDP and the developments that took place today with Donald Duke being, I almost said Donald Trump, but not to be mistaken for Donald Trump, Donald Duke being, as it were, reinstated as the party's presidential candidate, and assuming that that there is no further legal action to challenge that latest decision. What is the political future now?
My message to Nigeria is that their destiny is in their hands. This finger is the final determinant how their future will look like on May 29. This finger.
On February 16.
February 16. This makes the difference. They decide their future. They have to look at the people. They have to look at the generational issues. Those who are knowledgeable with modern challenges of a nationhood, who have the knowledge, the moral and the mental capacity to bring those transformations into bear. We presented ourselves as SDP, coming from the background of excessive experience from the PDP and other political parties. We built a common platform that will accommodate every Nigerian, irrespective of tribe or religion. Nigerians must decide if they are not happy with what is going on, they have opportunity to change it. We said we have all these qualities in SDP. We believe in SDP. We believe in the candidate the delegate have produced as the candidate of the party. And I'm appealing to everybody that let us vote wisely. Let us remember we are voting for our future. Let us remember, if you sell your right for 4 years, you will fast for 4 years. And it takes another 4 years for you to have opportunity to change what the situation is. We are suffering from economic issues. We are suffering from grave security issues. We are suffering from a lot of circumstances, technologically and otherwise, that have taken us backward. We are presenting a new future, a new Nigeria, a caliber of someone that can be on the world stage. You will appreciate that you have a president that has what it takes and understand the international language, the international concern, and the diplomacy to deal and bring the society together and build a common nation that will be respected once again in the international community.
And there you have it. That's the, shall I call it, the party political broadcast from the Social Democratic Party. Of course, you are the National Secretary and the Vice Presidential candidate of the SDP, Shehu Gabam. Thank you very much.
My great pleasure. Thank you so
much. Lovely
Thank
talking with you.
Thank you.
You're watching Nigeria, the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead, including as aid agencies in Nigeria release a report alleging that armed rebel groups in the northeast have killed more than 100 soldiers in the past 3 weeks and forced thousands of civilians from their homes. We speak with an international security analyst about the intensification of violence in the run-up to the presidential election. Stay with us.